good to see you guys today. Crazy. Crazy. Oh, I forgot to change the title. Dang it. It was gonna be so cool. Then I forgot to change the dang title. Lion Paw, where are you? Question mark. Done. Alright, we'll read 40 pages of this. And then we should be good to go. I'm checking the drama on Twitter real quick to see if anything new updated. Yes, interesting. There's always something new happening. Every, like, 5 minutes. Wild. Okay. Let's start. Let's begin this new fresh book on this new fresh day that's definitely not the same day as the last book was. For sure. As usual, I don't summarize because the books do a pretty good job at summarizing the previous book within the first, like, 3 chapters. So, we'll just get started. Prologue. Okay, something I've been thinking about is, like, there was only one epilogue. There was one epilogue in all the books so far, and it was in one random book in the second series. And there hasn't been an epilogue since. And there was never an epilogue before. It's so weird. Like, why did they decide to do it for that particular book? So funny. Anyways, that's what I think about every time I read a prologue. The indigo sky stretched over the moorland, holding the night's chill. Wind stirred the heather and set the hillside rippling. Between the low bushes, feline shapes, their fur slicked flat by the breeze, streamed down the slope. Among them, a tabby queen kept pace with a young tom. Are you ready? Are you sure you're ready for this? I'm ready, the tom answered, his green eyes flashing in the moonlight. You're my eldest fallen leaves, the queen whispered. The first of mine to face the ordeal. I'll be fine. He was trained well, a low voice called from behind. Even training can't prepare a soft paw for a rain, growled another. Fallen leaves glanced up, but the sky is clear. I smell rain on the wind, I tell you. Murmurs of alarm spread among the other cats. The sky is clear, Fallen Leaves insisted as he stepped up from the swath of heather and halted. The moon lit his ginger and white pelt. His clanmates crowded at his heels, their tails flicking. Beneath his forepaws, the slope fell away steeply. Here, moons of wind and rain had flayed the moorland, peeling away the earth until the stone beneath it lay bare, a wall of jagged rock amid the rolling heather. Good luck, Soft Paw. Fallen Leaves bounded down the cliff and landed lightly on the sandy earth at its base. His mother scrambled after him. Take care! Fallen Leaves brushed muzzles with the queen. I will see you at dawn, he promised. Ahead of him, a black gash opened like a wound in the cliff face. The fur along his spine lifted. He had never been inside. Only chosen cats entered the cave. I need you to know that cave is capitalized, like cave TM. Only chosen cats entered the cave TM. He padded forward, feeling the darkness swallow him. There must be some light to show the way. He struggled to crush the fear thrashing in his chest like a landed fish. The tunnel will take you to the cave, his tutor's voice echoed in his mind. Let your whiskers guide you. His whiskers shivered, alert to the slightest touch, steering him along the narrow passage. Suddenly, pale light glowed ahead. The tunnel opened into a cave. Its arching walls glowed into the weak moonlight that filtered through a gap in the roof. The sound of rushing water echoed around the rocks. A river? Underground? Fallen Leaf stared at the wide stream that split the sandy floor in two. Its black water glimmered dimly in the half-light. Fallen leaves! A croaking mew made the young Tong jump. He jerked his white muzzle up to see who had spoken, and his eyes narrowed as he saw a creature crouched on a high ledge, lit by moonlight pooled on the cave wall. Was this Rock? The creature's pelt was like moleskin, the fur gone except for a few tufts along his spine, and his sightless eyes bulged like eggs. His long, twisted claws flexed on the smooth branch that lay at his paws. The branch was stripped of its bark, and, even in this light, Fallen Leaves could see the claw marks etched along it, a crowded series of straight lines scarring the pale wood. This must be Rock. I can feel your surprise, the blind creature croaked. It pricks my pelt like gorse. I'm sorry, Fallen Leaves apologized. It's just I did not expect... You did not expect a cat could grow so ugly. Fallen Leaves froze with embarrassment. Had Rock read his mind? A cat needs wind and sun to shine his fur, and a good hunting to trim his claws. Rock went on, his mew rasping like stones on stone. But I must stay close to our warrior ancestors, those who have taken their place beneath the earth. Hell? I'm just kidding. And for that we thank you, Fallen Leaves murmured respectfully. Don't thank me, Rock growled. It was a destiny I was bound to follow. Besides, you may not feel so grateful to me once your initiation has begun. As he spoke, he ran a long claw over the line scratched into the smooth branch. A second scratch crossed some lines, but not all. The uncrossed lines marked the cats who went into the tunnels but did not come out. Fallen Leaves stared at the dark holes lurking like mouths at the edge of the cave. If they did not lead to air and safety, where did they end up? Which tunnels did they go into? Rock shook his head. I cannot help you. To become a Sharpclaw, you must find your own way out. I can only send you on your way with the blessings of our ancestors. Can't you give me any advice? Without light, you will only have your instincts. Follow them, and if they are true, you will be safe. What if they are not true? Then you will die in the darkness. Fallen Leaf squared his shoulders. I'm not going to die. I hope not, Rock mewed. You know you are not allowed to return to this cave. You must find a tunnel that leads straight back into the moor. Is it raining? He asked suddenly. Fallen Leaves stiffened. Should he mention the tingling in the air that hinted rain might come? No. Rock might tell him to go back the way he had come and wait until another day. He couldn't put off becoming a Sharpclaw any longer. He wanted to do this now. The sky is clear, he promised. Rock ran his paw once more over the lines that etched the branch. Then begin. Fallen Leaves eyed the tunnel beneath Rock's ledge. It seemed larger than the rest, and appeared to slope upwards, up to the moorland, high above. This was the way he would choose. Heart pounding, he leapt across the river and headed into the bone-chilling darkness. By dawn, I will be a Sharpclaw. His pelt bristled. I hope. Chapter 1. Look out! Lionpaw lashed his tail. ShadowClan warriors what the heck is this? Sorry. Look out! Lionpaw lashed his tail. ShadowClan warriors behind us! Hollypaw whipped around, her black pelt standing on end. I'll take him! Lionpaw glanced at his brother. Sent anything, J-Paw? More warriors coming, the gray tabby warned. His blind blue eyes were round with alarm. Prepare for an attack. We'll ambush them as they come through the camp wall, Lionpaw ordered. He jerked his head towards Hollypaw. Can you handle those three? Easy! Hollypaw rolled onto her back and then sprung to her paws, claws glinting in the afternoon sun. Lionpaw darted forward and crouched behind the prickly walls of thorns. Quick! J-Paw, beside me! J-Paw scooted over and dropped into an attack crouch. They're coming! A tabby warrior trotted through the entrance. Now! Lionpaw screeched. He hurled himself at the warrior. J-Paw scrambled between the enemy's paws. With a grunt of surprise, the invader tripped and tumbled onto his side. Lionpaw was on him in an instant. Enough! Squirrelflight's sharp mew rang around the small clearing. Lionpaw stopped pummeling Brambleclaw's back with his hind legs and stared at his mother as she hurried through the gap in the bramble wall. But we're pretending ShadowClan are attacking. J-Paw skidded to a halt. We'd almost won. Brambleclaw got to his paws, shaking Lionpaw off. Good ambush, he purred. But you know you're not meant to be playing here. Lionpaw slid to the ground. It's the only good place to practice a surprise attack, he mewed sulkily. He looked around the half-finished den. Its brambles walls jutted out from the side of the warrior's den. Once branches had been pushed over the top to form the roof, an opening would be made to join the old den with the new one. Hollypaw padded towards them, leaving her imaginary foes behind. We're not getting in anyone's way, she pointed out. She fluffed out her fur against the wind. New leaf sunshine had taken the chill from the hollow, but the afternoon had brought with it a breeze from the mountains that reminded Lionpaw that Leaf Bear was less than a quarter moon behind them. What if every apprentice decided to practice their battle moves here? Squirrelflight demanded. The walls would be broken in no time, and all Birchfall and Greystripe's hard work would be wasted. We need to expand the warrior's den before you and the other apprentices become warriors, Brambleclaw added. It's already too crowded. Okay, we get the point. J-Paw lifted his chin. His fur was ruffled and bits of leaves were sticking out of his pelt. Look at you! Squirrelflight licked J-Paw roughly between the ears. You've made yourself filthy. Filthy! She scolded, and we'll be leaving for the gathering soon. Lionpaw began to wash the dried leaf dust from his chest before his mother started on him. J-Paw ducked away from Squirrelflight's tongue. I can wash myself, you know, he complained. Leave them be. Brambleclaw meowed to his mate. I'm sure they'll smarten themselves up before we leave. Of course we will, Lionpaw promised. There was no way he was going to let the other clan see him looking like a hedgehog. This would be the first gathering that all three of them attended together. We've been looking forward to it for ages, haven't we, J-Paw? J-Paw flicked his tail. Yeah, right. Lionpaw flexed his claws. Why did J-Paw have to be grumpy all the time? This would be his first gathering ever. He must be looking forward to it. He had missed the last two, once as punishment and once because his medicine duties kept him in camp. Lionpaw knew his littermate well enough to know how important it was to be able to do what the other cats did, despite his blindness, and that included going to gatherings. Hurry up! Out of here, before Firestar notices, Squirrelflight ordered, running her kits towards the gap in the wall. Go find something on the fresh kill pile. You've a long night ahead. Lionpaw's tail pricked with excitement at the thought of the gathering. He could almost smell the pine scents of the island. But Hollypaw's eyes glittered with worry. I hope the other clans don't pick on us again. Do you know if Millie is coming? Perhaps she should stay behind this time. When Greystripe had returned to the clan 2 moons ago, he had brought with him his new mate, Millie, a kitty pet whom he had met while the Two Legs held him captive. He had trained her as a warrior, and in return she had helped him make the long, perilous journey to the lake in search of his lost clan. Her kitty pet roots made her an easy target for the other clan's jibes, but she wasn't the only ThunderClan cat who was taunted for not being clan-born. Millie can take care of herself, Squirrelflight pointed out. Besides, the contest seemed to have smoothed things over a bit, Brambleclaw added. But for how long? Hollypaw mewed. Lionpaw knew his sister had never been entirely convinced that the daylight gathering would heal the rifts between the clans. The 4 clans had competed in friendly contests to test their skills, pitting their apprentices against one another in efforts to put aside growing distrust and border tensions. Lionpaw remembered the day for different reasons, though. He and the Wind Clan apprentice Breezepaw had fallen into an old badger set and nearly suffocated in choking sand before J-Paw had found them. You're always fretting about something, J-Paw snorted at Hollypaw. It's like living with an anxious owl. New Leaf is here now, Squirrelflight pointed out. There's more prey running around, so the clans should be less prickly. Hollypaw glanced at J-Paw. Some cats are still prickly, even with a full belly. Hush. Squirrelflight nudged her with her nose. Go on and eat. I was only telling the truth. Hollypaw started forward, but J-Paw barged past her. She let out a yelp, glaring after J-Paw, who was already halfway to the medicine den. He nipped me! Lionpaw's whiskers twitched. You can fight off 3 Shadow Clan warriors single pawed, he teased, but 1 nip from your brother and you squeal like a kit. Her soft tail flicked his nose. You'd have squealed too. I haven't squealed since I left the nursery. Hollypaw narrowed her eyes mischievously. How about I nip you and see how brave you really are? You have to catch me first. Lionpaw darted away, Hollypaw pounding after him. Here! He skidded to a halt beside the fresh kill pile and tossed a mouse at Hollypaw as she caught up. Nip this instead. The full moon floated in a clear blue-black sky. Ahead, the island rose from the lake, its trees lifting brittle branches to the stars. Lionpaw walked beside Hollypaw, following his clanmates along the pebbly shore. He glanced at J-Paw again. His brother was padding beside Leafpool, nose twitching as he scented the unfamiliar ground. Occasionally, Leafpool's flank would graze J-Paw's, steering him around sharp stones or protruding roots. Should he warn J-Paw about the tree bridge? It was surprisingly slippery. Lionpaw had almost fallen off on his first crossing. Hollypaw mewed beside him. It'll be good to see Willowpaw. Willowpaw? He echoed distractedly. There was only one apprentice Lionpaw was hoping to see at the gathering, Heatherpaw, the pretty Wind Clan apprentice with smoky blue eyes. He let out a small sigh. Heatherpaw. What are you thinking about? Hollypaw nudged him. You're moons away. J-Paw. He mewed quickly. I was wondering if he could make it over the tree bridge. Don't let him hear you say that, Hollypaw warned. Lionpaw suddenly felt cold water seep over his claws. Firestar had led them onto the marshy shore at the edge of the end of RiverClan territory. Sandstorm picked her way after him. Brambleclaw and Squirrelflight padded beside Millie and Greystripe, while Birchfall and Dustpelt followed, talking quietly. Hazelpaw was listening to her mentor, while Berrypaw dodged from side to side, sniffing among the clumps of grass as though any moment he might flush out prey. This is RiverClan territory, Hollypaw hissed, reminding him that hunting on another clan's territory was forbidden. I know, Berrypaw retorted, but there's no harm in looking, so long as you just look. Greystripe let out a loud purr. Firestar, he called. It sounds like Hollypaw's preparing to challenge you for leadership. Lionpaw glanced at his sister. Was this the Grey Warrior's gentle way of telling her not to be so bossy? She can challenge all she wants, Firestar purred back. I don't think I have to worry until she gets a little bit bigger. Hey! Hollypaw fluffed out her fur indignantly. I was just telling him. Firestar halted among the snaking roots of the fallen tree that crossed the water between the shore and the island. The scents of Wind Clan and Shadow Clan were fresh on the bark, so they must be there already. Lionpaw pricked his ears. Faint mews drifted from the island. Sandstorm jumped up nimbly and wove her way between the stumps and knots until she reached the other side. One by one, the others followed. Lionpaw stood back as Hollypaw leaped after Hazelpaw. Aren't you coming, Lionpaw? She meowed, steadying herself. Of course, Lionpaw hissed back at her. He's waiting to make sure I don't fall in, J-Paw mewed from behind him. Only because I nearly fell in the first time, Lionpaw explained quickly. It's tricky if you don't know where to put your paws. J-Paw reached up to the tangle of roots, feeling his way with his forepaw. Here. Leafpool meowed, jumping up beside him onto the trunk. It's not too high. J-Paw lifted his nose and sniffed, judging how far away his mentor was. Then he pushed up with his hind legs and clawed his way onto the trunk beside her. Instantly, his forepaws slid out from under him. Lionpaw's heart lurched as J-Paw shot sideways. Leafpool darted towards him, but J-Paw had already dug his claws into the rotting bark and steadied himself, his tail lashing as he fought to regain his balance. Beneath him, the dark water lapped at the shore. Lionpaw fought the urge to jump up and help as J-Paw began to pad past his mentor and along the trunk. Leafpool crouched, tense and silent, ready to spring if J-Paw slipped again. One slow paw, a step at a time, the blind apprentice felt his way along the bridge. Jump this way, J-Paw, Hollypaw called from the shore on the far side. The sand's a bit soft, but it's clear. J-Paw leapt down, landing a little clumsily, but straightened up at once. Lion Paw felt a wave of relief. Hurry up, Lion Paw! Berry Paw was trying to push past him. Lion Paw leapt onto the trunk to block his way, but the tree trembled as Berry Paw leapt straight up after him. Come on! Berry Paw urged. Lion Paw felt his denmate's breath on his heels, hurrying him forward. Clutching tightly with his claws, he scrambled along the tree. There's no need to rush, Breakenfur's warning mew sounded from a tail length behind them. But Berry Paw kept pressing up behind Lion Paw. Stop hanging around! The apprentice's mew suddenly turned into a yelp. Lion Paw glanced back to see him sliding off the trunk, his cream pelt plummeting towards the black water. Breakenfur lunged forward and grasped Berry Paw by the scruff. Berry Paw jerked and dangled, his paws churning in the air, the tip of his thick cream tail rippling the surface of the lake. Hold still! Breakenfur grunted through clenched teeth. Muscles straining beneath his paws, the golden warrior heaved Berry Paw up onto the trunk. I told you not to rush! Lion Paw blinked. Thanks, Starglen, it wasn't me. He turned and padded the rest of the way, glad that Berry Paw wasn't still trying to shove past him. The fresh scent of RiverClan drifted from the shore. The patrol must have been headed down to the lake. Lion Paw scanned the edge of the water, but saw no sign of them. Is everyone ready? Firestar called, as he, Berry Paw, Breakenfur, and finally Ashfur jumped down onto the beach. The cats nodded. Firestar signaled with his tail, and the party began to head into the trees. Lion Paw watched Hollypaw's black pelt disappear into the bracken. His paws tingled with excitement as he prepared to spring after her, but J-Paw wasn't moving. He was just staring into the trees. Is he nervous? It's only bracken, Lion Paw reassured him. Just push through. The clearing's not far. He rested his tail on J-Paw's flank and felt his brother's muscles, strong and lean, beneath his pelt. Come on, you two! Hollypaw came crashing back through the bracken. Why are you Dawling? Just planning our entrance. J-Paw flicked his tail and padded forward. The brittle fronds of bracken scratched Lion Paw's nose as he followed his litter mates towards the clearing, but he could feel the soft baby fern leaves curled under his paws. New leaves for new leaf. ShadowClan and WindClan are waiting in the clearing, Hollypaw called over his shoulder. But RiverClan haven't arrived yet. They're on their way, Lion Paw mewed. I smelt them on the tree bridge. J-Paw lifted his nose. You're right. His whiskers twitched, but there's something odd. Lion Paw opened his mouth and tasted the fresh scent of RiverClan again. It seemed the same as usual to him. Probably just eating too much fish, he guessed. Let's make sure we beat them. Hollypaw urged them through the bracken and out onto the edge of the clearing. As they emerged into the open, J-Paw stiffened. Are there always so many cats? Lion Paw gazed at the warriors, apprentices, and medicine cat who crowded the clearing. It looked like an ordinary gathering to him. Was Heatherpaw here? Hey, kitty pet! Whitetail, a WindClan she-cat, was rushing towards Millie. Whitetail's apprentice, Breezepaw, hurried after her, ears flattened. Lion Paw unsheathed his claws, ready to defend his clanmate. Hi, Millie! Whitetail rubbed muzzles with Millie and twined her tail with hers as if they were old friends. Aww! Lion Paw let his claws slide back in. Do they know each other? Hollypaw gasped. Lion Paw shrugged. Breezepaw stared wide-eyed at his mentor as his mentor stepped away from Millie and blinked warmly at her. Thanks for the rabbit you gave us at the contest, she purred. You share like a clan cat. Millie dipped her head. It was a day for sharing, she meowed. Looks like the contest did some good after all, Hollypaw whispered to Lion Paw. But another WindClan warrior, Tornir, was staring at Millie through narrowed eyes. He clearly didn't like the sight of his den mate talking with a kitty pet. Russifur was watching too, pelt bristling as she leaned forward to whisper something into a clanmate's ear. Breezepaw didn't say anything, just padded away from his mentor and pushed his way through the busy clearing. Berrypaw and Hazelpaw were chatting with a crowd of ShadowClan and WindClan apprentices. As Breezepaw joined them, Lionpel's pelt bristled with expectation. Was Heatherpaw's pale tabby fur anywhere among the jumble of pelts? He couldn't see her. What are you so disappointed about? J-Paw asked. Linepaw stared at him. Disappointed? J-Paw always had an uncanny way of guessing what he was feeling. I'm not disappointed. A mouse on the moor could have heard your tail hit the ground, J-Paw mewed. I was hoping to see someone, Linepaw admitted. Hollypaw flicked her ears anxiously. Heatherpaw? Well, you want to see Willowpaw, he retorted, his fur bristling at her accusing tone. It's not the same. Yes, it is, Linepaw protested. We're just friends. As he spoke, he smelled a warmly familiar scent. Heatherpaw was racing across the clearing towards him. Linepaw, you're here! He felt his heart skip, then glanced nervously at J-Paw. Was he listening to his heartbeat too? As though burying prey ready to taste later, Linepaw pushed his excitement away. Hello, Heatherpaw, he mewed coolly. You don't sound very pleased to see me. The Wind-Clan cat's ears twitched. I've been on my best behavior all moon so that Crowfeather couldn't possibly leave me behind. Linepaw felt a flash of guilt about his lack of enthusiasm. Then anger pricked his paws. Why should he feel guilty? She was just a friend. I'm glad you made it, he mewed. Hollypaw stepped in front of him and lightly brushed muzzles with Heatherpaw. StarClan have given us fine weather again, she mewed politely. You brought your brother! Heatherpaw's eyes shone as she noticed J-Paw. Jealousy ran like cold water along Linepaw's spine. He wished she hadn't been around to watch J-Paw rescue him from a collapsing badger set. He was almost grateful when J-Paw snapped at her hotly. Nobody brought me. I came here with my clan. Of course, Heatherpaw mewed at once. I'm sorry. I know you can travel by yourself. It's just... J-Paw! Leafpool's call rescued Heatherpaw from her flustered apology. Come and join us. She was sitting with Barkface and Mothwing. Oh no, Pappy, I'm so sorry! I've been reading for 20 minutes. Actually, I've been reading for a half an hour. Alas. Don't worry, not much has happened. They just went to the gathering. It's J-Paw's first gathering! See. Linepaw watched as J-Paw weave his way over to the other medicine cats. Take no notice of J-Paw, he mewed to Heatherpaw. He's as grumpy as a badger. Who's grumpy? Linepaw jerked around to see who had spoken. His heart plummeted when he saw Breezepaw padding towards them. You're not going to waste your time chatting with these two, are you? The black-pelted Wind-Clan apprentice sat down beside Heatherpaw. Ivypaw and Owlpaw have just challenged Berrypaw to a competition to see who can jump the highest. He licked a forepaw and drew it over his ear. Why don't you go and watch it then? Heatherpaw replied. Why don't you come with me? A challenging glint sparkled in Breezepaw's eyes. Linepaw heard the ferns rustle and smelt a familiar tang. RiverClan's here, he mewed. Hollypaw stretched up on tiptoe beside him to watch RiverClan file into the clearing. Something seemed wrong. Their tails were down and their ears were flat back. J-Paw's words buzzed in Lionpaw's ears. There's something odd. Hollypaw narrowed her eyes. Leopardstar doesn't look very happy. The golden tabby she-cat was touching muzzles with Firestar, but her tail flicked impatiently, her gaze flitting around the clearing. Hollypaw! Willowpaw broke away from her clanmates and hurried to greet Hollypaw. I can't say. Stay. The RiverClan medicine cat apprentice was out of breath. I have to join Mothwing, but I wanted to say hello. Is everything okay? Hollypaw asked. With your clan, I mean. It's just that you all seem a bit... At that moment, Crowfeather padded over to join them. Lionpaw's whiskers twitched with frustration. Would he never get a moment alone with Heatherpaw? Heatherpaw? The Wind-Clan warrior greeted his apprentice briskly. Why don't you go and talk to some of the other apprentices from the other clans? This is a good chance to get to know different cats. His gaze flickered over Lionpaw and Hollypaw. Come on, Breezepaw urged. Let's see if Ivy Paw out-jumped that Berry Paw. Featherpaw glanced at Lion Paw, then shrugged. Okay, then. Lion Paw's tail stirred the needle-strewn earth behind him as he watched Crowfeather and Breezepaw guide her away. Let all clans gather beneath the beneath Star Clan. Black Star's loud mew sounded from the great oak. The 4 leaders were lined along the lowest branch, silhouettes in the moonlight, their eyes shining in the dark. Lionpaw hurried after Hollypaw as she pushed her way in among her clanmates and sat down beside Breakenfur. Lionpaw squeezed in front of her and sat beside Ashfur. Hey! Hollypaw hissed. Keep your head down. I want to see. Lionpaw ducked, suddenly realized that he was larger than his sister now, outpacing her in size, if nothing else, as they grew with the passing moons. Shadow Clan brings happy news, Black Star announced. We have 3 new kits born to Tawny Pelt. Tawny Pelt has babies. What the? Oh my god, who's her mate? I want to know the details. The heck? Mews of congratulation rose from the crowd, the loudest from Squirrelflight. Well done, Tawny Pelt! Black Star went on. They are named Flame Kit, Dawn Kit, and Tiger Kit. Tiger Kit? The meows died in the throats of the older warriors at the name Tiger Kit. Linepaw blinked. How could Tiger Star still frighten them when he was nothing but a memory from long ago and far away? They were as superstitious as owls. If they're Tawny Pelt's kits, he whispered over his shoulder to Hollypaw, they'll be our kin. It felt odd to have kin in another clan. For the first time, he tried to imagine how his father must feel about Tawny Pelt. She was Brambleclaw's sister, yet she had found her destiny with another clan. Had he ever had to face her in a fight? Anything else to report? Firestar's voice jolted Lionpaw from his daydreaming. Did I miss anything? Lionpaw glanced back at his sister. She shook her head, but her eyes were shaded with worry. Blackstar had tucked his tail over his paws and was looking satisfied. One Star turned his head from the ThunderClan leader, signaling he had nothing to say. Firestar nodded. All has been well in ThunderClan, too. He turned to the RiverClan leader. Leopard Star, you've shared no news. There is no news to share, she meowed curtly. The fish are returning to the edge of the lake. Hunting is good. My clan is well. I'm pleased to hear it, Firestar replied. Then the gathering is over, Leopardstar declared. The clans began to pad away from the great oak as their leaders bounded down from the low branch. Lionpaw stretched, feeling cold from sitting still. Hazelpaw nudged him with her muzzle. 3 new Shadow Clan cats, she mewed. We're gonna have to train harder than ever. She began to follow her clanmates across the clearing. Lionpaw hurried after her. But they're only kids. Kids become warriors, Hazelpaw reminded him. Lionpaw felt Hollypaw pressing beside him. Her pelt was bristling. Do you think we'll ever have to fight them? She whispered anxiously. Let's not talk about fighting now. Squirrelflight had joined them and overheard. 3 kits are a blessing to any clan. She was clearly pleased at Tawny Pelt's news. Leafpool caught up, Jaypaw at her side. I noticed Tawny Pelt was expecting last time I saw her. Squirrelflight looked surprised. You never mentioned it. It was not for me to say when it still lay in the paws of StarClan. Leafpool answered. Besides, it's none of your business. A gruff mew startled the cats. Lionpaw turned to see Rowanclaw, a ginger Shadow Clan warrior, staring at them with narrowed eyes. He must be the father? What? Tawny Pelt, what do you see in this guy? I mean, I've only spoken to him for 1 second, but, you know. Squirrelflight returned his gaze. Congratulations, Rowanclaw. You are blessed to have 3 healthy kits. Rowanclaw curled his lips. 3 healthy clan-born kits, he growled. Bruh. Tawny Pelt. This is your man's? That is only a blessing if they remain loyal to the clan they were born to, Squirrelflight pointed out sharply, letting her temper flare. Rowan Claw let out a low growl. Leafpool stepped between the two warriors. There's no need to argue. He was only speaking the truth. Who said that? Lionpaw snapped his head around. Breezepaw. The WindClan apprentice was standing beside his father. Crowfeather was staring at Leafpool, his eyes glittering. Don't forget, Breezepaw, ThunderClan actually celebrates mixed blood. Crowfeather? Leafpool jerked her head backwards as though Crowfeather had ranked his claw across her muzzle. She turned quickly and hurried away. He's acting like something's wrong with ThunderClan. Lionpaw unsheathed his claws, then felt his mother's tail run along his flank. Come along, Lionpaw. Don't forget the truce. She pressed against Lionpaw and padded towards the edge of the clearing, steering him away from Crowfeather, Breezepaw, and Rowan Claw. Dang cats. Lionpaw glared over his shoulder at the three cats, wishing he could ignore the stupid truce and rip a piece of fur from each of them. Lionpaw! Heatherpaw was bounding towards him. What? Lionpaw stopped and faced Heatherpaw. Squirrelflight paused beside him. Heatherpaw gazed up at her. Can I speak to Lionpaw, please? Squirrelflight's ears twitched, but she nodded. Don't be long. She padded to the break-in after Leafpool, Hollypaw, and Jaypaw. Please don't be angry, Heatherpaw begged. Crowfeather's always bad-tempered. It's just his way, and Breezepaw thinks he's a warrior already. But you heard what they said about mixed blood in ThunderClan. They just can't let it go, can they? Maybe they can't. But can we forget it? Heatherpaw's eyes were shining. I've got a plan. To get back at them? Heatherpaw's eyes widened. Of course not! They're my clanmates! She flicked her tail. My plan is something else. Entirely. Lionpaw tipped his head to one side. What then? Instead of waiting till the next gathering, why don't we meet up before? Before? Lionpaw echoed in surprise. Wasn't it against the warrior code to meet up with cats from another clan without permission? Tomorrow night, she whispered. But how? Where? At the boundary in the woods, near the yew tree. We can slip away when our clanmates are sleeping. But... Heatherpaw's whiskers twitched. Come on, it'll be exciting, and it's not like we'd be hurting anyone. Lionpaw felt guilt and worry tug at his belly, but Heatherpaw's blue eyes were sparkling at him hopefully. It did sound like fun. He could always say he'd been practicing his night hunting. And Heatherpaw was right. They wouldn't be doing any harm, like stealing prey or spying. No cat would even know if they were careful about it. I'll still be loyal to my clan, and I won't fall behind in my duties. He blinked at Heatherpaw. Okay. Dun 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 dun. Boom boom. Chapter 2. Hollypaw was dreaming. She was charging through the forest as rain pounded the leaf-strewn earth. She could glimpse Willowpaw's striped pelt through the trees. The RiverClan medicine cat apprentice was running fast, always a few steps ahead. Wait for me! Hollypaw called. There's something I want to ask you. I'll tell you if you catch up. Willowpaw called back. Hollypaw pushed harder, her paws skidding on the mud, but Willowpaw stayed a tail length out of reach. There's something wrong with RiverClan, isn't there? Hollypaw yowled. I can't hear you. The rain's too loud. Tell me what's wrong. The rain pelted down more fiercely, rattling against the leaves and bouncing off the ground. Willowpaw! I can't tell you unless you catch me. Slow down. Hollypaw narrowed her eyes against the downpour. Willowpaw? Willowpaw had disappeared. Hollypaw was alone in the drenched forest. She blinked open her eyes. Rain was battering the den roof, finding its way through the thick foliage of the yew branches and dipping into the nests. Hollypaw shivered and snuggled deeper into the moss, but something wet was pressing against her. Lionpaw's pelt. Hollypaw shoved him away. Move over, your fur is soaking. Lionpaw rolled back against her. Lionpaw! She scrambled to her paws to stare at her brother. Dawn light was filtering through the branches, just enough to give color to the pelts of the sleeping cats. Lionpaw's fur was drenched, as though he had spent the night out in the rain, though he was fast asleep now. Hollypaw sniffed him suspiciously. Perhaps he had just gone out to make dirt and slipped back into the den for more sleep. She yawned and stretched, her tail shivering with the effort. She felt cold to the bone. Mousepaw, Berrypaw, and Honeypaw were asleep despite the rain. Poppypaw and Hazelpaw's nests were empty, but their scent was fresh. They must have gone out with the dawn patrol. Hollypaw? Cinderpaw lifted her head and blinked open her eyes. Did the rain wake you? Hollypaw shook her head. Lionpaw did, she mewed. He's soaking wet. He's been out in this? Cinderpaw rubbed her eyes with a paw. It looks like it. Hollypaw's fur was starting to itch with curiosity. This wasn't the first time Lionpaw had done something weird. He'd woken her up before dawn only a few days ago, slinking back into the den. He said he'd been out to make dirt, but his fur smelt of leaves, as though he'd been further into the forest than just the dirt place. And he'd snapped the answer back as though she was prying. She was sure he was up to something. Uh-oh, Lionpaw, this is what happens. Cinderpelt's belly began to rumble. I wonder if there's any fresh kill on the pile left yet. There must be some left over from last night, Hollypaw suggested. Let's go and see. She picked her way among the warm bodies of her sleeping clanmates and peered out of the entrance. She could hardly see the fresh kill pile. The dawn sky was dark with clouds, and the rain was so heavy that mud danced over the clearing. Cinderpaw squeezed up beside her. Let's make a dash for it. Okay. Hollypaw screwed up her eyes and darted out of the den. Stormfur and Brook crouched beneath the high ledge, sharing a soggy robin beneath the shelter overhead. This weather's too wet even for RiverClan, Stormfur called in greeting. Hollypaw paused, blinking the rain from her eyes. Now I know how fish feel. Cinderpaw scooted past her. Don't sit there like startled rabbit, Hollypaw, Brook urged. Find shelter. Hollypaw hurried after Cinderpaw and sent up a spray of murky water as she skidded to a halt by the fresh kill pile. A few sodden pieces of prey lay plastered in the mud. She picked up a sorry-looking mouse and carried it to the shelter of the brambles that crowded one side of the medicine den. Yuck! Cinderpaw dropped the dripping wren on the ground and shook herself. Hollypaw flattened her ears as the spray showered her. Sorry. Cinderpaw crouched and took a bite of her wren. This tastes like mud, she mewed with her mouth full. At the entrance to the medicine den, the dripping brambles shivered as Leafpool hurried out, her claws clutching a bundle of herbs. She dashed across the clearing and disappeared into the nursery. I hope Ice Kid and Fox Kid are okay, Hollypaw mewed. Daisy was sneezing last night, Cinderpaw told her. I think she has a cold. Hollypaw peered up through the brambles at the gray sky. We'll all have colds if this rain doesn't stop soon. That or webbed feet. It had been nearly half a moon since the gathering, and it seemed to have rained every day. The rest of the camp was beginning to stir. Thorncloud yawned as he padded around the clearing, followed by Dustpelt. As Hollypaw swallowed the last mouthfuls of cold mouse, Firestar emerged from his cave on the high ledge and surveyed the camp. Brambleclaw darted from the warrior's den and bounded up to the rockfall to meet him. The two warriors vanished into Firestar's cave, their tails low against the rain that hurled against the cliff. Mousefur peered out from the honeysuckle draped bush that formed the elder's den, before disappearing back inside with a snort of disgust. Graystripe padded from behind the warrior's den, where he shared a makeshift den with Millie. His gray pelt was plastered against his body. He picked 2 birds from the fresh kill pile and hurried back to his nest. Breakenfur emerged from the warrior's den and stretched, arching his tail and reaching out with his forepaws until his chest touched the ground. Then he straightened and shook himself, fluffing out his golden fur. Hollypaw! He peered towards her through narrowed eyes, rain streaming from his whiskers. Is that you? Hollypaw padded out from the shelter of the brambles. I was just eating with Cinderpaw, she greeted him. Well, if you got a belly full, you can come hunting with me. Hollypaw felt a surge of delight. Hunting would warm her up. Can Cinderpaw come too? She asked. Cinderpaw shook her head. Cloudtail asked me to clean out the elder's bedding this morning. I'll bring you back a warm mouse if I can, Hollypaw promised. One without mud, please, Cinderpaw purred. Come on, Hollypaw. Breakenfur was already racing for the camp entrance. Outside, the forest floor was soaked, the dead leaves slimy and rotten under paw, but Hollypaw soon began to feel warm as she chased Breakenfur up the steep slope as they headed into the forest. The rain was beginning to ease, and for the first time that morning she opened her eyes wide. The trees ahead were thickening, and the forest darkened where the pines began to grow among the leafless trees. ShadowClan territory lay this way. Hollypaw thought of the new kittens, her kin, in the camp beyond the border. If they shared her blood, would they share her scent as well? Was it blood or clan that decided scent? How would they tell whose marker was whose? Brakenfur. Brakenfur skidded on the wet leaves and turned to face her, his eyes bright. Do you smell prey? He asked hopefully. Hollypaw shook her head. I was just wondering. She searched for the words to explain the unease that was nagging her. Yes? Well, I was wondering. Brakenfur shook the rain from his whiskers. What is it, for StarClan's sake? If the new kits in ShadowClan are my kin, do I still have to fight them in battle? Of course, if they threaten your clan. Brakenfur turned away and started padding through the forest once more, his nose twitching as he hunted for scent among the wet undergrowth. Hollypaw hurried to keep up with him. But what if my clan threatens them and I don't think it's fair? Why should we do that? Brakenfur's ears pricked and he dropped into a hunter's crouch. But just say we did. Shouldn't I feel some loyalty to my kin? A true warrior is loyal to her clan above anything else. Brakenfur began to knead the ground with his hind paws. He had spotted something ahead and was preparing to pout. But Hollypaw's mind was much hungrier than her belly. You can't hurt cats that share your blood, she argued. Does that mean there are more important things than the warrior code? She blinked in alarm. If that's true, then how do we know what's right? Hush! Brakenfur's hiss silenced her as a leaf trembled the fox length away, and a small brown shape shot away into the safety of its barrel. Brakenfur sat up and stared crossly at his apprentice. Why don't you stop thinking about the warrior code and start following it? Your clan is hungry and wet. You should be concentrating on feeding them, not on deciding what's wrong and what's right. Hollypaw's tail drooped. He was right. She had scared off prey that could have fed her clanmates. I'm sorry, she murmured. Now stop asking questions and find something to take back to the camp. Hollypaw hunted even harder than usual and returned to the camp carrying 3 mice. Brakenfur led her through the thorn tunnel, a crow in his jaws. He dropped it on the fresh kill pile that had already been restocked by another hunting patrol. You did well, he congratulated her. She felt relieved that she had made up for losing him that mouse. Now, go and get dry in your den, he advised. I'll take food to Mousefur and Longtail. The rain had stopped, but the forest was still dripping. Hollypaw padded to the apprentice's den. Inside, the nests were empty except for Lionpaw's. Hollypaw could see his golden pelt rising and falling gently as he slept. How could he sleep the morning away while everyone else was busy looking after the clan? Doesn't Ashfur have any jobs for you? She called irritably. Huh? What? Lionpaw's head shot up as he stared, blinking at her. Is it dawn already? It's halfway to sun high. Linepaw leaped to his paws. His eyes were round with guilt. Has Ashfur been looking for me? I don't know. I've been out hunting. Hollypaw answered pointedly. She began tugging at the damp bedding closest to her, pulling at it with her teeth and shaking it out to let the moisture out and fresh air in. Why are you so tired anyway? She asked, her mew muffled with moss. I didn't sleep well, Lionpaw replied. Hollypaw glanced at him, but he was staring at the ground, as if avoiding her gaze. Is there something wrong, Lionpaw? No, he mewed quickly. Are you sure? Of course. His mew was tetchy. Lionpaw felt a wave of sadness. They used to share everything, but now getting details out of her brother was like trying to pick fleas off a hedgehog. Unless they jumped up by themselves, there was no way she could reach them. Okay, there's no need to bite my head off. She started plucking at the moss again. Lionpaw patted past her. I wasn't biting your head off, he muttered, but sometimes it's nice to be able to do stuff without being asked so many questions. He stalked out of the den, leaving Hollypaw alone. She sighed and let the moss she was working on drop to the ground. Perhaps J-Paw knew what was up with Lionpaw. He always seemed to guess what she was thinking. Perhaps he could do the same with Lionpaw. She headed for the medicine den and pushed her way through the brambles. J-Paw was sorting through herbs at the back of the cleft in the rock wall. I'm busy, he mewed without looking up. Leafle wants me to see what herbs we need before she gets back from the nursery. Are the kids sick? Hollypaw asked anxiously. Daisy has a cold, J-Paw replied. Nothing serious, but with all this rain, Leafle wants to treat it before it gets worse. I wanted to talk to you about Lion Paw, she ventured. Is he ill? No. Holly Paw sat down, wishing J Paw would stop messing around with the herbs and talk to her properly. He's just been so tired lately and grumpy. Every time I talk to him, he practically nips my whiskers off. How should I know what's wrong with him? J-Paw pushed a pile of dark green leaves together. Hollypaw tried to remember their name. She had, after all, trained as a medicine cat for a while, but she had no clue. It's just that you usually know. You share a den with him, J-Paw pointed out. I'm stuck over here with Leafpool most of the time. His voice prickled with resentment. Hollypaw sat in silence for a moment. On top of worrying about Lionpaw, her dream about Willowpaw was still nagging at the back of her mind. But if J-Paw wasn't going to help her work out what was up with Lionpaw, there wasn't much hope he would care what was bothering her RiverClan friend. And yet, she decided to try coming at it sideways. Always a good hunting move when stalking tricky prey. Did you speak to Willowpaw at the gathering? She asked casually. Not much. I think she's worried you don't like her. Why do I have to like every cat I meet? J-Paw grumbled. Why do you have to dislike every cat you meet? She shot back. Willowpaw's really nice. You don't have to go out of your way to make her feel uncomfortable. I don't make her feel anything. J-Paw turned back to his herbs. She feels what she wants to feel. Didn't you think she was feeling anxious at the gathering? Hollypaw decided to press on. Didn't you think the whole of RiverClan was acting oddly? J-Paw turned from his herbs. Perhaps. His ears were pricked as if Hollypaw had finally said something that interested him. So I didn't just imagine it? Imagine what? That something's troubling RiverClan? Do you think there is? J-Paw was leaning towards her now. I don't know. Hollypaw didn't want to start a rumor that would make RiverClan look weak. It felt disloyal to her friend. Besides, it might not be true. Do you? I couldn't tell. Hollypaw felt a wave of frustration. This conversation was going in circles. I might be able to find out something when we go to the moon pool, J-Paw went on. Of course. The medicine cats will be traveling together to the moon pool at the half moon. That was only a few days away. If there's something wrong with worrying Willowpaw, will you tell me? Hollypaw asked. J-Paw narrowed his eyes. Sure. I know how I'll be able to find out. Hollypaw's pelt began to prick with unease. I'm not asking you to spy or anything, she mewed. Just let me know if I'm right to worry. Okay. J-Paw shrugged and began pawing at another pile of herbs. Hollypaw! Breakenfur was calling for her from the clearing. Feeling slightly relieved, she hurried out of the medicine den. A small patch of blue had opened up in the clouds above the hollow. We may as well do some training in the forest while the rain holds off, Breakenfur meowed. Cloudtail's taking Cinderpaw out to explore, and I thought we better join them. Get to know the territory a bit better. Cinderpaw came bouncing towards them, followed by Cloudtail and Birchfall. Firestar wants us to check out the old fox den, Birchfall called. Make sure those fox cubs haven't returned. Hollypaw shivered. She still remembered that awful day when she and J-Paw and Lionpaw had set out to chase the fox cubs from the den and had ended up being chased themselves. In his terror, J-Paw had fallen over the side of the hollow and nearly died. Don't worry, Hollypaw, Cinderpaw whispered. I'll watch your tail. Hollypaw brushed gratefully against her friend as they padded out of the camp after the three warriors. And I'll watch yours. As they neared the narrow glade that sloped down to the hollow den, Hollypaw sniffed the ear. Her paws tingled. Fox! Young, female, but it's stale, Cinderpaw interrupted, nose twitching. How can you be sure? Hollypaw asked in surprise. As far as she knew, Cinderpaw had never met a fox. She couldn't know their scent well enough to distinguish all that. Cinderpaw shrugged. I just know, she mewed. She's right about it being stale. Oh, sorry. She's right about it being stale, Cloudtail meowed. There's been no fox here since Leaffall. Hollypaw glanced at her friend. Cinderpaw sometimes said or did things that suggested she knew more than what she let on. But holding back secrets was not like Cinderpaw. The gray apprentice was usually 3 paw steps ahead of herself and would rather leap in, whiskers first, than stop and think. Perhaps she had been here before and just forgotten. Cloudtail was obviously wondering the same. Have you been here with another patrol? Cinderpaw shook her head. This is definitely the first time, she mewed. Cloudtail and Brakenfur exchanged glances, and Hollypaw guessed that they were as puzzled as she was. An owl screeched far above the hollow, and Hollypaw rolled over in her nest, half woken by the noise. She stretched her forepaws, feeling the reassuring warmth of Lionpaw. Feeling for the reassuring warmth of Lionpaw, but found emptiness. She blinked open her eyes. "Lionpaw?" she hissed under her breath. No reply. She reached further into his nest, wondering if he had rolled to the far side, but no, he was definitely gone. "You looking for a Lionpaw?" Poppypaw yawned from the other side of his nest. "He left the den a while ago." Hollypaw sat up, her heart racing. Lionpaw had gone missing once too often. "Something wrong?" Poppypaw's eyes gleamed in the darkness. No." Hollypaw didn't want to arouse the suspicion of the other apprentices. "Has Lionpaw gone to make dirt again?" Cinderpaw's mew sounded from behind her. "It must be that stale old thrush he ate." Hollypaw felt a wave of gratitude towards her friend. She was clearly covering for Lionpaw, stopping Poppypaw from answering any more awkward questions. The thrush had been perfectly healthy, caught fresh that day. "I'll go and I'll check if he's okay," Hollypaw mewed. She crept from the den and hurried as silently as she could around the edge of the slumbering camp, keeping to the shadows. Lionpaw's scent led to the entrance, following the same furtive route. "Let me find him making dirt," Hollypaw prayed. Paw steps sounded behind her. Hollypaw froze and glanced over her shoulder. "Just me." Cinderpaw's mew sounded from the darkness, and the gray tabby stepped out of the shadows. "I thought you might want some company." "Thanks." If Lionpaw was really making dirt, there was no harm in Cinderpaw knowing. But if he wasn't, and, as Hollypaw feared, he was out in the forest, she would be pleased to have her friend with her. One after the other, they squeezed through the small tunnel to the dirt place. "He's not here," Cinderpaw whispered. Hollypaw sighed, her heart heavy. "No. What do you think he's up to?" Hollypaw didn't dare reply. She could guess why he might have left camp under cover of night, but she didn't want to believe it. "His trail leads this way," Cinderpaw announced, pointing with her nose up the lakeward slope. Hollypaw's belly tightened. The trail led over to the ridge and then around onto the moorland, WindClan territory. Perhaps he's just exploring? Hope stirred in her chest, but beneath it, like a rock, lay the dark suspicion that he was meeting Heatherpaw. "We're gonna follow him, aren't we?" Cinderpaw was staring at Hollypaw, her eyes clouded with worry. Had she guessed too? Surely not. How could she know? "Perhaps it's none of our business," Hollypaw suggested feebly. "Of course it's our business! Our den mate is out there alone. What if something happens to him?" "Is that the only reason you want to follow him? Because he might be in danger?" "No." Cinderpaw sat down. "I think he might be doing something he'll live to regret." Hollypaw was taken aback by her friend's serious tone. "Do you know something I don't?" she asked. Cinderpaw shook her head. "It's just a feeling I have. I can't explain it. A feeling that Lionpaw's making a mistake that's been made before, that should never be made, that only leads to trouble." Her mew died away, but her eyes were shining with emotion. "Okay." Hollypaw could not ignore the strength of her friend's feelings, nor could she ignore her own. All her instincts told her that Lionpaw was breaking the warrior code, and it was her duty as a clan to stop him. She charged up the slope, sniffing the twigs and brambles for Lionpaw's scent, following the path he had taken to the top of the ridge. Cinderpaw bounded after her, and they quickly reached the edge of the trees. The ground sloped away in front of them, down to the shore where the lake sparkled in the moonlight. Hollypaw scanned the distant moorland, half hoping to see Lionpaw, half hoping she wouldn't. If Lionpaw was roaming around the territory at night, she wanted it to be on ThunderClan territory. There was no sign of movements in the shadowy heather. Hollypaw plunged down the slope, following the old rabbit track through the coarsening grass. Under Paw, the ground grew more peaty as they neared the WindClan border. Heather bushes sprouted on either side of the track as the slope flattened and the sound of water lapping the shore grew louder. "Do you hear that?" Cinderpaw's hiss startled Hollypaw. She pricked her ears. A small hollow ringed by heather lay in the shadow ahead of them. From it came the sound of voices. Hollypaw's tail bristled as she recognized Lionpaw's mew. He sounded happy, happier than she had heard him in days. She crept forward, keeping low, and ducked into the swath of heather that shielded the hollow. Setting the bush rustling, she wriggled between the bare stems and peered over the top of the slope. Her brother was charging after a ball of moss like an excited kit. He dived at it as it landed and, with a tremendous swipe, sent it flying back in another direction. A lithe shape leaped up from the grass to catch it. Its tabby pelt glowed in the moonlight. Hollypaw's heart sank like a rock. Heatherpaw! You don't seem surprised. Cinderpaw had slid in beside her and was peering down into the grassy dip. Hollypaw shook her head. I'm not. Reluctantly, she wriggled out of the heather. Lionpaw! She called. Lionpaw and Heatherpaw froze, staring at each other in alarm. The moss ball fell to the ground. What are you doing here? Hollypaw demanded. Slowly, Lionpaw tore his gaze from Heatherpaw and turned to face his sister. His eyes sparkled with defiance. What are you doing here? Looking for you! Spying on me! Hollypaw flinched. You shouldn't be here playing with her. She glared at Heatherpaw. Why not? She's just a friend. A friend from another clan. You're friends with Willowpelt. I don't sneak off every night to see her. Lionpaw opened his mouth to object, but no words came out. Hollypaw knew she had won the argument, but her brother's eyes did not concede anything. They shone with rage. He turned to Heatherpaw. I better go. Heatherpaw dipped her head. I know, she sighed. Hollypaw clenched her teeth as Lionpaw brushed muzzles with the Wind Clan apprentice. Did he really believe it was just friendship that brought him here? Lionpaw padded up the slope and glared at Cinderpaw. Did you have to tell the whole clan? He hissed at Hollypaw. Cinderpaw flicked her tail. I just came to make sure Hollypaw was safe, she explained. No one else knows. And they won't know, Hollypaw added, so long as you stay away from Heatherpaw. Lionpaw glared at her. Is that a threat? Hollypaw backed away. She had never seen Lionpaw this angry. Even when they had quarreled as kits, there had always been a light-hearted twinkle in his eye, but not now. His eyes were cold as stars. If you continue meeting Heatherpaw, I will have to tell Brambleclaw, she insisted, trying not to let her voice tremble. Lionpaw bristled. There's a good reason why the warrior code forbids mixing with cats from another clan, Hollypaw went on. How can you be loyal to your own clan when your heart lies in another? Are you accusing me of disloyalty? Lionpaw flattened his ears. I know you'd never be disloyal, Hollypaw mewed, but you're making it difficult for yourself. That's why you must stop this. It was hard enough having kin in another clan without deliberately making friends outside the forest. Weren't Lionpaw's clanmates enough for him? A low growl sounded in Lionpaw's throat. He barged past Hollypaw and padded towards the trees. Hollypaw felt Cinderpaw's tail run along her flank, smoothing her ruffled fur. He'll get over it, Cinderpaw promised. I hope so. Hollypaw sighed. She knew she'd done the right thing, but she hadn't expected Lionpaw to react so angrily, as if he believed that he'd done nothing wrong. Would he ever forgive her? Chapter 3! I'm sitting in darkness. Hold on. Okay. I think I'm gonna end it here. Chapter 3. It's J-Paw's turn! J-Paw's chapter. So next week we'll start with J-Paw, which is always a wonderful thing. Also, I realized that Doki Bird is streaming right now.
I'm just a fucking stupid girl.
Oh, Doki.
I'm just... It's crazy. It really is. And
Aw, cute. Okay, I'm gonna start watching Doki Bird. I can't raid Doki Bird, so I'll raid. We can quiet raid. Everybody go watch. Oh my god, somebody's playing Outer Wilds. Loud, grown man, better than Sammy at Fortnite. Always has been. Someone named Chris Melberger. Very exciting. Anyways, I'm gonna tell you guys all to go watch Doki Bird on YouTube instead of raiding anybody. She is welcome back, and we hope that she's well and happy. And yeah, thank you guys for hanging out with me for this funny little double stream, but not really a double stream because we're technically still doing the same thing. It's just split into 2 videos. Thank you so much. I don't think I'll stream. I don't know. I'll see how things work out. I think I'll stream tomorrow because I haven't been working. They haven't given me any hours like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That's 4 days. I had 4 days off of work. That's insane. It's very sad. I'm not getting paid. So I figure like if I'm not working, I may as well stream, right? Well, I'll see you guys when I see you guys.